5 True Toys are US horror stories. Story: The Haunted Aisle. In the summer of 2015, Jenna was hired as a part-time employee at a Toys R Us in a small town in Pennsylvania. She was excited about the job, as she loved working with kids and being surrounded by toys. However, her excitement quickly turned to unease after a few weeks. One evening, as she was restocking shelves in the action figure aisle, she heard the faint sound of a child laughing. At first, she thought it was just one of the kids still in the store, but when she turned around, the aisle was empty. The laughter continued, echoing through the aisles. Jenna tried to brush it off as her imagination, but the feeling of being watched persisted. A few days later, Jenna was assigned to work the closing shift. She and a co-worker were the only ones left in the store, and they were finishing up their tasks. Jenna was in the same aisle when she heard the laughter again. This time, it was louder and more distinct. She called out, thinking her co-worker was playing a prank, but there was no response. Suddenly, an action figure fell off the shelf and landed at her feet. She picked it up and noticed it was a vintage toy she hadn't seen before. As she examined it, she felt a cold breeze pass by, even though the store's air conditioning was off for the night. The laughter grew louder, now accompanied by whispering voices. Panicked, Jenna ran to find her co-worker. They searched the store together but found no one. The next day, she told her manager about the incident. He revealed that the store had a history of strange occurrences, with multiple employees reporting similar experiences over the years. Some believed the store was haunted by the ghost of a child who had died in a nearby accident. Jenna continued to work at Toys R Us, but avoided the action figure aisle whenever possible. The eerie experiences left her convinced that the store was indeed haunted, and she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched every time she walked past that aisle. Story: Creepy Clown Doll. In 2016, Toys R Us released a line of clown dolls that quickly became popular among collectors. However, one particular doll seemed to have a sinister presence. It was returned multiple times by different customers, each claiming it was cursed. Liam, a store manager in a suburban Toys R Us, was intrigued by the rumors and decided to investigate. He noticed that the clown doll was often found in different places around the store, even though it was supposed to be on the shelf in the doll. Employees reported hearing strange noises and feeling uneasy whenever they were near the doll. One evening, Liam decided to stay late and keep an eye on the doll. He placed it on a high shelf in the stockroom and set up a camera to monitor it. As the hours passed, nothing unusual happened. He was about to call it a night when he heard a soft thud coming from the stockroom. Liam checked the footage and saw the clown doll had moved. It had fallen off the shelf, despite there being no draft or movement in the room. He picked up the doll and noticed its eyes seemed to follow him. Suddenly, the lights flickered and a cold breeze swept through the stockroom. Terrified, Liam put the doll back and left the store. The next day, he found the doll in the middle of the sales floor, its creepy grin seemingly wider. He decided to remove it from the inventory and lock it in a storage. The strange occurrences stopped, but Liam couldn't forget the doll's unsettling presence. A few weeks later, the store was preparing for a Halloween event, and Liam reluctantly agreed to include the clown doll in the display. The night before the event, he placed the doll in a glass case and locked the store. The next morning, he found the case shattered and the doll missing. Employees searched the store but never found the clown doll. The mysterious incident ceased, but the story of the creepy clown doll became a local legend, leaving everyone who worked at that Toys R Us with a lingering sense of unease. Story 3: The Phantom Customer. In the winter of 2017, Olivia worked the evening shift at a Toys R Us in a busy city mall. One night, as she was organizing the board game section, she noticed a man standing at the end of the aisle, staring intently at the shelves. He was dressed in old-fashioned clothing and seemed out of place. Olivia approached him and asked if he needed help, but he didn't respond. He simply pointed to a specific board game, an antique-looking set that had been part of a special vintage collection. Olivia picked up the game to show him, but when she turned back, the man was gone. Confused, she looked around but saw no sign of him. She assumed he had left and continued her work. Later that evening, while closing up, she saw the same man again, this time standing near the entrance. She called out to him, but he vanished into thin air. Disturbed, Olivia told her manager, who revealed that other employees had reported seeing the same man. Some claimed he was a ghost of a former employee who had died in a tragic accident years ago. The sightings always involved the vintage board game section. The following night, Olivia and a co-worker decided to stay late and see if the man would reappear. Sure enough, as they were organizing the games, the man appeared at the end of the aisle. They watched in astonishment as he slowly walked towards the vintage board games, picked one up, and then disappeared, leaving the game floating in midair before it dropped to the floor. Shaken, Olivia and her co-worker reported the incident to their manager, who contacted the store's corporate office. They decided to remove the vintage board games from the shelves and donated them to a museum. The phantom customer was never seen again, but the eerie encounters left Olivia convinced that Toys R Us had its own resident ghost. Story 4. The Poltergeist in the Stockroom. In 2018, Mark started working as a night stalker at a Toys R Us in a rural town. His job involved restocking shelves and organizing the stockroom after hours. He enjoyed the quiet shifts, but that changed after a series of strange events. One night, as Mark was organizing a shipment of toys, he heard a loud crash from the other side of the stockroom. He rushed over and found a stack of boxes had fallen, spilling their contents all over the floor. He cleaned up the mess, assuming it was just an accident, but the following nights brought more incidents. Toys would be moved from their designated places, boxes would topple over without explanation, and Mark often felt a cold presence behind him. He tried to ignore it, but the occurrences became more frequent and unsettling. One night, he was stacking boxes when he saw a shadowy figure out of the corner of his eye. He turned to look, but the figure vanished. Determined to find out what was happening, Mark set up his phone to record while he worked. The next morning, he reviewed the footage and was shocked to see toys moving on their own, boxes falling without cause, and a shadowy figure darting around the stock. Mark showed the footage to his manager, who was equally stunned. They contacted a local paranormal investigator who visited the store and conducted an investigation. The investigator concluded that the stockroom was experiencing poltergeist activity, likely due to the restless spirit of someone connected to the store's past. Despite the findings, Mark continued to work there, although he never felt entirely comfortable. The poltergeist activity eventually subsided, but the experience left him with a chilling story to tell. The Toys R Us stockroom, once a place of routine tasks, had become a site of supernatural occurrences that he would never forget.